Hi everyone, hope everyone has had a good week. Thanks for watching my channel, and just a quick reminder, after I post my video, I will be on the channel live for about 15 to 20 minutes after posting, answering any questions that you guys might have in real time. And if you like this channel, be sure to subscribe to Saimah's Experience, that's me, to help me get to 10,000 subscribers so that I can get access to YouTube stories and even share more of my day with you. So kind of keeping in theme with what I've been posting on lately, I want to bring you guys some more news that could potentially have some effects on us as Turo hosts, or just sort of the markets that we're in. Now, a while back, I posted a video on California's law, which was called AB5. It was passed back in September by Governor Gavin Newsom, and it went into effect January of this year. And I will read off some stuff to you guys, because now what we are experiencing is something very similar to the AB5 being passed on a federal level. It's not passed yet, but it was recently passed by the House of Representatives and is currently with the Senate right now, and we don't know what's going to happen yet. So let's kind of go backwards a little bit and refresh on AB5. So basically, AB5 redefines the relationship between employers and employees, effectively ending contract work. And this was primarily designed to go after gig economies and companies that have mass amounts of independent contractors under them. And Turo, obviously being a gig economy, we as hosts are all independent contractors. We also kind of fall into that category. Although Turo has not really, or there's at least nothing I've come across where they've been on the radar for this new law, and I really don't know exactly how it may or may not affect them, but what I do know is that it is definitely affecting other companies such as Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, all these kind of food delivery services, Instacart. These people are already feeling the effects of it, and it was really designed to sort of go after these companies and change that employee-employer relationship from people not just being independent contractors but being employees, and having sort of more of a system for when and when they can't work, dictating sort of more rules, and then having more say in what their pay is. And of course, I already know all the information out there. There's tons of people out there that are not happy with how they get paid when they drive for Uber or Lyft, and then there are other people out there who really like the freedom and like to be able to drive whenever they can, and they're happy with what they earn. So there is both sides to the spectrum, as always, when it comes to these things. So what's the right answer? I don't know. But what this specifically AB5 did is that it created sort of three pieces of rules that they have to go through, these companies, to prove that people really do qualify to be independent contractors and not employees. And I'm going to read you guys the three things. But basically, this has kind of become the golden standard, and it's become stringent so that companies can't get away with just having mass amounts of independent contractors. Okay, so the three things are, number one, the worker is free to perform services without the control or direction of the company. Number two, the worker is performing work tasks that are outside the usual course of the company's business activities. And number three, the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as that involved in the work performed. So these are the three things that they have to prove in order to keep their people as independent contractors. And one of the major areas where they're failing is number two, because their argument is, well, we're a tech company, and this is the same thing with Turo. Turo identifies themselves as a tech company, so they don't really consider themselves as sort of a ride-sharing company who brings on people to drive cars. No, they just provide the technology that empowers a platform that people can then join. However, currently as it sits, this argument is not flying, although they have vowed to fight this piece of legislation that went into effect, and this is probably going to go on for quite some time, but they are putting a lot of money on this. So with that said, just a reminder, this was passed in California and went into effect this year, January 1st. Now, what they basically did was, it's literally a portion of it is copied and pasted from California's AB5, and it was put into a piece of federal legislation called the PRO Act. And the PRO Act is another short word for protecting the right to organize. So this was recently passed in the House of Representatives, and you guys have probably noticed that there has really been no talk about this in the news. It hasn't been a big thing. It's been sort of just kind of under the radar, and it's been really flying by. And I'm going to try to explain this to you guys to the best of my ability, but it is a little bit complicated from the research that I did. But basically, it's a larger version of the AB5 legislation that took place in California. So let me give you guys a little bit of information that I got from the Associated Press. So they said, the House approved a bill that would make it easier for workers to form unions and bargain for higher wages, better benefits, and improved working conditions. The Protect the Right to Organize, or PRO Act, would allow more workers to conduct organizing campaigns and would add penalties for companies that violate workers' rights. The act would also weaken right-to-work laws that allow employees in more than half the states to avoid participating in or paying dues to unions that represent workers at their places of employment. One second. So that's how the Associated Press has kind of described it. Now, like it mentioned, this was passed in the House of Representatives, and it currently sits in the Senate, which many of us know is dominated by the Republican Party. And this piece of legislation actually doesn't really fit in with the agenda of the current administration. So most people out there speculate that it won't pass because of this. However, another thing that they do caution is that this bill has gotten so far without really anyone knowing, and the impact of this is so great that, you know, who knows, you never know, it could pass. Although maybe it's not likely because it doesn't match up with their agenda, but nonetheless, it's out there and it's big, and let's just say it doesn't get passed now. It doesn't mean that it won't get passed later. So very important to be informed about this, because basically if this gets approved, again, this targets gig economies, and this would allow the workers on these platforms, so people like us who are hosts, to unionize. And if they unionize, then of course there are many things that are associated with that, such as union dues. There's additional costs. Of course, these companies will have far more boundaries and lines that they have to operate within. So I mean, it's a lot of things, and there's many ways to view it. And everyone will really have their opinion on what they think is better and what solution would work out best. For me personally, I believe that if something like this passed, I mean, I personally wouldn't want to pay union dues. Like, just say, for example, if I was an Uber driver, I wouldn't want to have to pay union dues. And I also don't want to have that additional cost of doing business for the company to get passed down, because that's exactly what would happen in these situations. The more stuff that kind of goes into effect like this, the greater the cost of doing business gets, and that cost of doing business will always get pushed down to the users, no matter what. So maybe on the front end, it might look like you're earning more money, but then your cost is also going up. And if your cost is not going up, the riders, their cost is going up, which will cause demand to go down. And then there'll be an abundance of supply, and it'll be sort of this whole vicious cycle. But you know what? You got to do your own research. You got to stay informed and read about this stuff, because it's very important. Should this stuff ever come up in the elections, and this is something that we as people can vote on, is very important to really know exactly what it is that you're voting for and be informed. And the most interesting thing about this is that what the article stated is that it would weaken the right to work laws. Now, these right to work laws were put in place in, I believe it was 1947. So this would be the biggest piece of legislation that would affect sort of our labor laws ever since 1947. And it's really a gigantic deal, because it would affect the way that we work. It would affect gig economies, and it may even affect them to such an extent that they may not be able to exist. Some people kind of worked out some numbers, and they estimated what the cost of doing business how much it would go up by, and it showed that these companies would never be able to be profitable and would likely have to file for bankruptcy. So these are all different possibilities that could occur should these types of laws continue to get passed and more states adopt them. I think Illinois, if I'm not incorrect, also adopted something very similar to AB5, or is in the process of adopting that. So like I said, it's very important to just kind of stay in tune with what's going on, especially if you do participate in the gig economy. And like I said, how this exactly would affect Turo, I don't know, because I do understand that the type of work we do is a little bit different than, say, an Uber driver or a Lyft driver. But nonetheless, we are still categorized under that 1099 contract employee or contractor, and they have a mass amount of these independent contractors under basically their company. So, they kind of fit that mold of what these pieces of legislation are going after and really effectively trying to redefine those relationships. So, something that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to. I want to know how this is going to roll out. I want to know how it's going to affect things. How is it going to affect business? And if the opportunity will still be there, and if the opportunity will outweigh the opportunity cost of being involved in gig economies in the future. Now, gig economies have emerged very quickly, very strongly. They have a strong following behind them. And I also believe that when economies get weaker, these are the types of things that people look for to bring in additional income into their household. So, I mean, they provide a lot of value in our sort of economic atmosphere. But of course, it has its peaks and valleys to it. So it's very important to keep an eye on what's going on and read up on this. And as always, I will keep you guys posted on, what I come across and how I think it might affect us. I know Uber, when this went into effect here in California, I mean, they sent out emails to all of their users letting them know how it was going to affect them. So we haven't heard anything from Turo yet. I don't know if it'll touch them or if maybe they're small enough still to where they're still under the radar. But something I'll be keeping tabs on and bringing you guys information on. And on that note, the only other news that, as we all know, is kind of just growing like wildfire is the coronavirus. And so many of you have commented in the last week or so talking about how it's affected you. This is something we can absolutely 100% anticipate on happening. As Turo hosts, this is going to affect our businesses. I mean, for a fact, it's going to happen. It's already happening. I've already received so many cancellations because of this. So many other people have. So you really just have to stay vigilant, be as proactive as possible. I think I mentioned in my last videos that, I'm in major sales mode right now because I feel like you just don't know at any moment this thing can pop and really affect an area that you're in, and it can bring things to a halt. So right now, my only thing every single day is I'm trying to grab these sales while I can get them. I want these bookings. I want as many as I can get, as quickly as I can get them, and I'm trying to fill up my weeks, my weekends. You guys should really make sure that you watch my videos where I'm showing listing adjustments, because it's really, really taking into account what's going on. It's something that I'm thinking a lot about, just trying to anticipate for worst case scenario, and if this goes really bad, what could the effects be? So just be careful out there. Make sure you guys are cleaning your cars, sanitizing. You don't know where people are traveling to or from or who they're in contact with. So keep yourselves safe as well. And on that note, that was just some important information that I felt like I should put out there about the PRO Act, which is currently taking place on a federal level. It is sitting in the Senate right now for a final decision, but has already passed the House of Representatives. So something we should be very in tune with, because it could have a grave effect on us. And on that note, I will stop this video here. Thank you guys again for watching. Once again, my name is Saimah. This is Saimah's Experience. And as always, send me your questions and comments. Let me know how any of this is affecting you. If you're in California and you're an Uber or Lyft driver, or you're involved in gig economies, how has AB5 affected you? What have you seen any benefits to it? Has it been good? Has it been bad? coronavirus. I know it's affecting all of us out there, but you know, share your stories. We can all definitely collaborate and do as much as we can as a community to help each other out, and hopefully, you know, remain strong during this time of just so much stuff going on, what seems like all at once. So it's definitely what I would consider a winter season in business, where there's just a whole lot of elements that could have never anticipated to happen, but you got to remain vigilant, remain strong, and just work through it. And like someone said in the comment section, this too shall pass, and you just want to come out on top when it does. All right, guys, good night, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.